It's midday. Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to the news here on 3FM 92.7. We're coming to you live from our studio at Adesawe Kanda here in Accra and Tamale. We're live on Kesmi 107.1 FM. If you can hear us in White on W93.5. Around the world, we're streaming live on 3news.com. Download the tuning app from the Google Play or Apple iOS store and listen to us on the go. Coming up this afternoon, power outages hit Accra over the past 3 days, sparking fears of a possible return of load shedding. Details as power distributors attributes the problem to challenges with gas supply from Nigeria. Also this afternoon, Director of Legal Affairs of the Opposition National Democratic Congress, Abraham Maleba, describes as frivolous and calculated suit seeking to stop the presidential primary of the party over the electoral register.
For me, this rate is frivolous, vexatious, and an attempt to thwart the effort of the party.
He says the NDC is working to bring the court hearing closer, further describing the action as an attempt to derail efforts in organizing the contest. And we're live to the Dom Kwabenya constituency as we continue to preview the NDC primaries this Saturday. The contest there is heating up between three individuals. Much later, though, Asante Akim MP Andy Apia Kubi to meet Special Prosecutor Kisie Jabin over bribery allegations against a businessman who sought to halt their demand for the sacking of Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta. Details of these and many more if you stay with us for the next 30 minutes. A pleasure that you could be a part of this afternoon's bulletin. It's streaming live on Facebook. Our handles 3FM 927, as well as on Twitter. Same handles 3FM 927. I am Eric Mawuena. Egbeta. Let's begin. And the national capital has been experiencing power outages lately, sparking fears from Ghanaians or citizens here of a possible return of load shedding. Residents have been complaining about erratic power supply since Saturday. The situation got worse on Tuesday night as most densely populated areas in Accra, including Adenta, Ashaneboche, Madina, Abekala Pass, Pokwase, Ablekuma, Achimota, among others, suffered a blackout. Sources at the Electricity Company of Ghana, ECG, and the Ghana Grid Company, Gridco, tell 3FM the situation is a result of gas supply challenges from Nigeria. And as you know it, Ghana relies on the its West African neighbor for gas to supplement supplies from the Ghana Gas Company that has not been reliable in the last few weeks and months. Let's get on the phone now. Nana Mwesi the 7th. He's the executive director for the Institute for Energy Security and get a bit more understanding of this particular challenge. Nana, power outages are being experienced, especially in Accra lately. We've been in touch with Gridco and ECG who say this is as a result of challenges from gas supply from WAPCO. Is that the situation from your point of view as energy analyst as well?
Good afternoon to you, Mawuena, and to your listeners. Yes, the checks of IES indicate same that the experiences that we've had in the past few days, and in particular last night, where most parts of the country and in the capital went off, was as a result of gas supply deficiency. And so yes, we got the indication right, just like you also gotten it.
But there are concerns more often than not when some of these excuses come up that it could be financial. But this time, ECG says that they are, with the recent retrievals they've made, using some of these monies to purchase gas to supply Gridco. In terms of the situation, how long can we continue to rely on Nigeria for gas when there's Ghana gas?
Well, we're going to rely on gas for Nigeria gas for quite a long time as a country because as we speak, we all know that we have domestic gas here But then as the demand for power grows, we should also be growing the supply of our own indigenous natural gas. And so today, just one plant for the Ghana gas. We have to ramp up in such a way that we get an additional gas processing plant just to augment what we have currently. The ENIs, process the natural gas offshore, brings it onshore. But in respect to Ghana gas, we need to build another facility to process more gas for our own consumption. If we keep on relying on Nigeria, then of course we are agreeing that we are leaving our own fuel supply security in the hands of another segment, which we have little control over. Then, of course, in the meantime, while we rely on Nigeria, what we must do as a country is we must be willing to pay for what we take from them on time, just to guarantee the supply of the next parcel. Because in that pool, the West Africa gas pipeline pool, there are many countries that are also sourcing same gas. And if there is any fall in supply, Nigeria will attempt to give it to the person that is willing and able to pay on time.
Right.
And so our financial situation must be also set right, in as much as we keep on depending on Nigeria gas to augment our own domestic, supply.
Right then, Nana, I appreciate that you could speak to us this afternoon.
Thanks, Mawuena.
That's Nana Muisi the seventh. He's the executive director of the Institute for Energy Security, speaking to us. We're staying on the conversation of power. This time we're going to the Ashanti region because the Kejetia market has been plunged into darkness again. The facility owes the Electricity Company of Ghana some 5.2 million Ghana cedis. Ibrahim Abubakar is my colleague in the Ashanti region. He will join us on phone with some more details on how this is affecting trade. Ibrahim has joined us on the telephone line now. Ibrahim, do we know if power has been restored to the market as of now?
Well, Mawuena, as I speak to you now, power has not been restored, but you come here and you realize that they have light. So their alternative is to use their generator that's here. And they said because of the monetary aspect of it, they can't use it the entire day. So what they have decided to do is to use it for 6 hours within the day. And even that 6 hours, they started yesterday because the National Task Force came here to disconnect the electricity. So they started yesterday 6 hours, and they used 7.5 barrels, which in terms of monetary terms, around 18,000 Ghana cedis. For now, that is what they will be using until management pays the money to ECD for their light to be restored. But the traders themselves are concerned. The leadership are also very much concerned because they said this may not be sustainable in the next few days because they can't be buying power for 18,000 Ghana cedis almost every day. I have with me one of the leadership of the traders, Mr. Ruben, and let's briefly engage with him why they even delayed for this debt to pile up. We know you owe 5.9 Ghana cedis to the Electricity Company of Ghana. As traders, in the first place, why did you even file this?
As far as you are concerned as traders, we don't owe ECG. Because every bill the management has brought to us, I'm using myself as an example. I don't owe management. Actually, owe me. I even have credit with them.
So as leadership, what has management been telling you? Because as we talk, you don't have electricity.
You know, there is something. The stories they've been saying, we are tired of those stories. It started yesterday, right? We are just giving today and tomorrow. We expect them to get the ECG to restore power back. If not, it will be a national issue. They should mark our way to be a national issue. If not, the national security will have to descend down here.
Have they not explained it?
If not, the president will have to we are tired of the explanation. All we know is that whatever it is, the board, the management, whoever, I say I'm using myself as a test case. I don't owe management, so I don't owe ECG. Every bill they've brought to me, I've paid. I only have credit with them. So what are you telling me? All I know is that they should get a power resource. Simple.
All right, it's getting interesting here. In fact, we are even trying to engage management. The MD, when we called him, told us he's in the court. We are waiting for him to come because for the traders, they said every month they pay their bills to management. So they expect management to also pay the bills to electricity company of Ghana. So they don't know how come their lights have been disconnected and management is not giving them any tangible reason for that. So like you said, they've given them up to possibly by Friday to act on it, else they also have to advise themselves.
Right, then Ibrahim, that's my colleague Ibrahim Abubakar in the Ashanti region, the KGT market, to be precise, providing details there for us. And you heard the thread live this afternoon here on 3FM. They say they will advise themselves and amongst many other things. We're switching our attentions from this to other matters. The writ is frivolous, vexatious, and an attempt to thwart the efforts of the party in the organization of the primaries. Response from the opposition, National Democratic Congress, to the interlocutory injunction filed by Dr. Kwabena Duffuor seeking to halt all processes for the presidential primary of the NDC over challenges with the electoral register. Dr. Duffuor, in a suit at an Accra High Court, is demanding the party primary be held only after a credible voter album is produced at least 5 clear weeks before the poll, with the hearing slated for May 15, at least 2 clear days after the parliamentary and presidential primaries. The election is in limbo, but according to the NDC, they are working to have the hearing before Saturday. Abraham Amaleba is Director of Legal Affairs of the NDC. He's been speaking to Johnny Hughes on 3FM Sunrise.
Yes, I can confirm to you that as at 5:45 thereabout yesterday, we were served with the writ, including the application for injunction. Yes, so I can confirm that.
Right. What does that mean for the events planned for the weekend, Saturday particularly?
The application for injunction has been fixed for hearing on the date for the hearing is on the 15th, which means that it is beyond the 13th, which is the day for our primaries. However, as lawyers, we are trying to use the legal processes available to us to ensure that this application is heard before the 15th.
And what exactly does that mean? It means that you want to go to the court to overturn what had been done by the Dr. Kwabena Duffuor campaign team. Is that the case?
That will be the end result, but first the court must hear us. So we are trying to ensure that the date for the hearing comes backwards to say tomorrow or Friday.
Will it be possible if there's a functional executive committee meeting as indicated yesterday by Mr. Alex Egbeta, Director of External Affairs of your party, that perhaps if you meet, things could change, the tables could turn? Is that possible at all?
If the parties are minded and Dr. Duffuor is ready, we can have a discussion around the issues that he has raised, which are no issues at all. I'm sure we'll get into them. And then if that is possible and we can reach an amicable settlement, why not? But for me, this rate is frivolous, vexatious, and an attempt to thwart the effort of the party in the organization of the primaries. That's how I see it.
That's the Director of Legal Affairs of the NDC, Abraham Amaleba. Let's get on the phone lines now and speak to the spokesperson of Dr. Kwabena Duffuor's campaign, Antonio Asenyo. He's joined us on the telephone line. Many thanks, Antonio. And so the Director of Legal Affairs says that your suit is frivolous, vexatious, and an attempt to thwart the efforts of the party in the organization of the primaries. Surely you must have taken into consideration that there was a NEC meeting yesterday to look into the concerns you'd raised.
Good afternoon, Mawuena. How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Okay, I'm talking to your listeners. I would not really engage the director of legal affairs because what he's supposed to be doing is to be engaging the issues, the anomalies, and infractions that Dr. Dufour's team have presented to the party. It's a 40-page document, and it's important to note that Dr. Dufour should rather be commended for the speed and thoroughness and detail, paying attention to details that he's exhibited through this process. On the 17th of April, we wrote to the party requesting the photo album. There was no official response from the party. We followed it up on the 2nd of May, requesting for the photo album, knowing that the election is going to be on the 13th. There was no response. On the 4th of May, the party gives the candidates an incomplete photo album of 220 constituencies on the 4th of May. On the 5th of the 6th, Dr. Dufour's team worked on the incomplete photo album given. And on the 7th, we put together the evidence and wrote to the party requesting that these are the anomalies or infractions identified in the incomplete photo album, but because of the time, we advise that we postpone. You call all stakeholders to a meeting to agree on a time frame to fix this problem for us to have a free, credible, and transparent election. So we really do not see the uneasiness and the insult, the name calling that is currently being necessary by some officials and party supporters.
Well,
this is something that we should be doing.
The argument really from them is that they are looking into these concerns. There was a NEC meeting yesterday to, amongst many other things, address these challenges. And it is not just Dr. Dufour who's received 220 constituencies. The other two candidates as well have received the same. And so the party is working to ensure that you have all the 275 constituencies.
So, the concern is not whether the aspirants got 200 and information or not. The concerns are the infractions that have been identified in the 220 constituencies that have been provided. And as you are aware, I've read that even Kojobo is saying it identified some infractions. I'm yet to hear the former president's opinion on the photo album that was given him. But that is material. Now is that the infractions that have been identified in the 220 constituencies, are they legitimate or not? Are we able to correct it within the time frame before the election? If we are not, what is the logical thing to do? You postpone and prepare and come back. There is no rush. Dr. Dufour is not saying we should not have the election. What Dr. Dufour is saying is that the right thing must be done. We must go into the election with a photo album registered that the party decided to use. That is credible, transparent, and that would give everybody that hope that the election is going to be free, fair, and transparent. In all our communications, we've never really suggested that there's an attempt to rig the election. It could be a genuine error by a party official one way or the other, but the error is a human institution. It is identified. What are we supposed to do? Correct it.
Right.
And then calling. It's really not happening.
Just finally, the line is a bit bad. If you could position for us properly, I get the indication that
I'm on the road.
You're on the road as well. But there are those who argue that this action could dwindle the chances of your candidate in the event that the election is postponed or it's even held on Saturday with all of the concerns that you've raised addressed. How do you respond to this, just briefly?
What's the logical basis for that? This is a constitutional republic. If anybody has used an internal structure to seek redress of particular concern and the person does not get the needed response, the logical thing to do and the one that the law allows is to seek redress in court. The party went to court in 2020 when we were not happy with the full details, whatever case wanted to do. But going to court is not an anti-party agenda. What we are seeking to do is to strengthen the party. So when we go into 2024 election, we will be able to collate our results. We will be able to put whatever electoral process the electoral commission is bringing us. So this action should be commended. That a party member who is interested in the party is being proactive in order to get credible votes registered for an election for all of us to vote. So those speaking or those who are not happy with it, if they go to the election and their names are not in the register, they will not be happy. So this is something for all of us to be welcoming, so that those who are supposed to do the work we'll do the right thing.
Right then, Antonio.
In the right direction.
Right then, that's Antonio Edem Asinio speaking to us. He speaks for the Dr. Dufo campaign, joining us on the telephone lines with the responses. We're staying on with the NDC, and it promises to be an intense battle in the Dom Kwabenya constituency on Saturday, when the opposition National Democratic Congress goes to the polls to elect presidential and parliamentary candidates for the 2024 general elections. 3 candidates are slugging it out in a contest tilting gradually away from the 2020 parliamentary candidate Egbeta Akurugu. I was at the constituency and put this report together. It is the largest constituency in Ghana. Dome Kwabenya continues to be a safe seat for the governing New Patriotic Party. Until 2020, the NPP had enjoyed well over 30,000 excess votes in terms of margins whenever there is a general elections. But at the 2020 polls, Egbeta Akurugu managed to poll some 52,000 votes as against the over 75,000 polled by Sarah Adjwasafo, the sitting member of parliament for this constituency. For the upcoming primaries of the opposition National Democratic Congress, they're seeking to work harder to wrestle the constituency from the governing New Patriotic Party. 3 individuals have put themselves up for the primary. At the time of the visit, one of the candidates, Israel Susuli, was actively campaigning, gathering delegates for a free insurance cover for up to 3 months. In his view, gains in the 2020 elections for the party didn't rest on their candidate, hence the decision to allow him stage a comeback.
I'm showing you that for the first time in the history of this party, NDC is preparing to pick the seat. 2024 elections, Dome Kwabenya is a place to watch. This is a seat that is swinging towards the NDC, and that's what this whole process is about. This time around is different. We are having our primaries a little earlier. So they are asserting that, yes, we appreciated in votes, yes, but you cannot attribute all of it to the candidate at the time.
And he was not alone in his assertion.
I believe he's going to win the seat for us. No doubt about that. We are ready to win the seat, and we are taking it from the MPP this time around, with no doubt.
Israel Kwekumensa Susuli, it's somebody who has been supporting this constituency all this while. In 2019, he contested. He's not a new person.
Theophilus Mensah is attempting the primary for the first time. He says the sitting MP has failed the constituency, hence his decision to contest.
The policies that I'm bringing out is better than the other candidates. I have a lot of policies for the youth, for the children, for the aged, and for the elderly people. Going to parliament just to make laws and neglecting your people, then I don't see why you should be there. At least you need to do something that will better the lives of the people, so that in the next 4 years, when you come again, they can give you another mandate.
The constituency is prepared for the task ahead. Constituency Chairman Nilante Lamte insists disorganization by key persons from within disrupted their 2020 chances.
We need somebody who has that quality of bringing people together, who have the spirit of forgiveness. Because as a politician, you must understand that your people that you work with, they are coming from different backgrounds.
That's the constituency chair of the NDC in the Dom Kwabenya constituency, Nilante Lamte, and there'll be a lot more on this if you stay with us here on 3FM 92.7. Away from this, Member of Parliament for Asante Akim North, Andy Apiakubu, later this afternoon meets the special prosecutor to answer questions over bribery allegations made some 8 months ago. The MP, who is spokesperson for over 100 majority MPs seeking the removal of the Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta last year, is alleged that a wealthy businessman attempted to bribe the majority MPs to soften their stance on their demand to have the minister removed from office over the country's economic challenges. Andy Apiakubi has been speaking to 3FM ahead of that meeting with the special prosecutor.
Well, I have received a letter from Office of the Special Prosecutor indicating their interest in
discussing matters related to corruption or corruption practices. And indeed, they also wrote to the office of the Speaker of Parliament, who agreed to convene this meeting for us to have the interaction. From what I'm hearing, different subject matter on which they want to discuss. But if it is about this one, then we'll wait for them to come.
He adds that the onus would lie largely on the president to honor their demand for the sacking of the finance minister after an IMF deal is reached.
When we get to the point where we would have finished with the IMF, then the onus would be on the president, not on us anymore, so that the president will exercise his discretion at a time.
Andy Apiakubi is a Asante Akim North Member of Parliament and will bring you details of that meeting as and when he does meet the Special Prosecutor KCA Chabai. Away from this, in the last week alone, the country has recorded 4 building collapses, 3 in the capital and 1 in the northern region, involving a 6-story building on the UDS Sagnarigu campus. A recent one in Accra was at Botiano, when a church building collapsed while service was ongoing. 7 persons were injured, with 1 in critical condition following the incident. Personnel from the Ghana Police Service and National Disaster Management Organization, NADMO, were called to the scene to assist in rescuing the victim. Let's speak to Engineer Abdullahi Mahama on this rather worrying trend. Engineer, many thanks for speaking to us this afternoon. And so, a worry for everybody, particularly for you, industry players, this continuous collapse of story buildings across the country.
Yes. I'll say good afternoon to your listeners this afternoon. It's a worrying trend because the approach by individuals and some corporate bodies in the way and manner in which they execute their buildings it's a worrying trend, or it's a concern, because last year I stated on one of the stations that most of the story buildings that we're having in Accra are standing only by the grace of God. People don't understand what I meant by that, and that is what we are beginning to witness across the country, 4 of its kind in about a month. In as much as the individuals and corporate bodies who are constructing their buildings are not respecting the regulations, building regulations, it behoves on the assemblies to up their game. There are a lot of acts that gives utmost power to the assembly to determine which building ought to be constructed with respect to all dots being adhered to as a regulation in the country. So until those things are done, I'm not sure we're going to have an end in sight. There's a habit of individuals who feel like engaging the professionals will be a bit expensive for them. But on the contrary, it is not. Some of this collapse cannot be quantified, especially when we have lives lost. So the Assembly, by their act, the Land Use and Special Planning Act of 2016, and the National Building Regulation and the Engineering Council Act 963, all these acts have enshrined in them few requirements that ought to be adhered to by any developer. And this is the blatant disregard to the regulations in the country. Even a mason or a foreman who's supposed to supervise a construction ought to be certified by the Engineering Council. And the Act also says that any land which is supposed to be built upon, which has flood-related issues, must be improved and certified before the building starts. And Regulation 113 states that no building shall be constructed unless that developer has received express approval from the assembly in the jurisdiction in which that building is supposed to be situated. The Act goes ahead to give the power to the assembly that in the event where recalcitrant developers do not obey this law, it gives the assembly the power to carry out instant prohibition, abatement, or restoration or demolition of that structure when that structure interferes with the environment or the public right of space.
And the assemblies are
failing. Done by the assembly, and they are sleeping. I keep on the fact that the ones the assembly sit out and be counted, some of this mess will be coming down. And per my discussion with my engineers yesterday, one person who was trying to attribute the sudden rise in the cost of building material, this which is actually empowering a lot of those who are already doing substandard buildings to move in that direction, to do more of the buildings which may not meet the specification, and that's hard for the country.
Engineer, I appreciate that you could speak to us when the conversation will come back to you as and when there's a need for more expert opinion. That's Engineer Abdullahi Mahama speaking to us this afternoon here on the Midday News here on 3FM 92.7. That's our bulletin for you this afternoon. A lot more news if you log on to 3news.com. Dela Michel is on standby with the very latest from the world of business. I am Eric Mawuena Egbeta.
Hello there, good afternoon. Let's do some business news now. And coming up this afternoon, prices of local food items continue to be high, even as inflation slows to 41.2% in April. We'll hear from government statistician Professor Kobna Enim. Also, government planning to increase its treasury bills targets this week using the proceeds to settle maturing old bonds. And MTN reiterate commitment to ensure that customer security is being made by investing into infrastructure. We have the details of these stories and many others coming shortly. Stay with us. Thank you for your company this afternoon. Let's begin with our very first story for today. Prices of local food items continue to be high, even as inflation slows to 41.2% in April. The local food items that drove April inflation include tea and related products, such as fruits and nuts. Food inflation in April was 48.7% compared to non-food inflation of 35.4%. Let's now listen to government statistician Professor Samuel Kobna Enim, who made this announcement earlier today.
This 41.2% that was recorded for the month of April 2023 signifies a 3.8 percentage drop relative to the rate that was recorded for the month of March 2023, which stood at 45.0%. From a food and non-food perspective, we recorded a 13.3 percentage point difference. We have seen a much sharper drop from a non-food perspective, as non-food dropped by 5.2 percentage points between the rate that was recorded in March 2023 relative to the rate that is recorded for the month of March 2023. From a food perspective, we saw a relatively smaller drop between the month of March 2023 and April 2023, with a drop of about 2.1 percentage points. In the month of March 2023, food inflation stood at 50.8%, and April 2023, 48.7%. On a month-on-month basis, with food inflation 4.3% for the month of April 2023, we identified 5 subclasses that recorded rates higher than the overall food inflation on a month-on-month basis, which was 4.3%. These 5 classes were led by tea and related products, 10.3%, followed by fruit and nuts, 7.8%, and the last of the 5 subclasses that recorded rates higher than the month-on-month food inflation of 4.3% was oils and fats that recorded a rate of inflation of 4.6% for the month of April 2023.
So you heard the voice of government statistician there, Professor Samuel Kobna Enim. Joining me in studio is my colleague Ebenezer Boatin, as we look at some breakdown from the figures that was just shared by the government statistician. So we do know that there's been a marginal decrease and has been recorded from April, from March's figure of 45%. Eben, what more can you share with us?
Okay, what I can report is that food inflation, especially locally produced food items, continue to drive inflation, and especially for last month, it was the major driver for the inflation, though we see a slowdown in the general price levels. So we have food inflation that was 48.7% for April, which is extremely high. Non-food inflation was 40.6% for April. When we come to locally produced items, was 38.2%, and compared to imported items, 43.1%. If we look at the food inflation, non-food and locally produced items, then the underlying factor will be the high cost of production for locally made items. So that's one thing that would definitely drive up prices for locally produced food. And one interesting thing here is the regional breakdown. Volta region was the lowest inflation zone in the country for April. It recorded an overall inflation of 28%, which is lower than the national average,
which being 41.2%.
Yes, and looking at it, the Volta region has a lot of subsistence farming. Right. They do produce to feed themselves a lot.
Right.
So this could account for why the prices of food items are low in that region. Then the Western North recorded the highest inflation rate in the country for the month of April, which was 64%.
So we are seeing the Volta region having lower than the national inflation rate. And then when it comes to the Western North region
is higher than the national.
It's higher than the national average, which is currently at 41.2% for the month of April.
And when you look at the Western region, was divided into Western and Western North. It's supposed to be the food basket of the country, but we see inflation being so high in that region. And what drove their inflation up was food and non-alcoholic beverages. Fruits and nuts, groundnuts was very expensive there. Then they have furniture. Furniture too is expensive in that area.
Interesting.
And it could be because it's a mining zone.
It's a mining zone, I can imagine.
And then finally, we're looking at a situation where we are seeing inflation easing in the country.
Okay.
So when we ended last year, December, it was the highest in about 15 years. Though we had about 54.1%. Then came beginning of the year, January, it started easing, 53.6%, February 52.8%, then March it dropped drastically to 45%, then it has eased a little bit again, 41.2%. But food prices, locally produced food items,
continue
the prices
to remain high.
Are high.
I'm sure that in our subsequent broadcasts you would also look at the top 15 items, which sometimes is where most of the policy analysis or policy recommendations is being tailored towards, because if in case you spend more on these top 15 items, your inflation might be higher than what we've just recorded at 41.2%. But thank you so much for joining us in the studio. That was my colleague Ebenezer Ajekume there, giving us a little breakdown with regard to the latest inflation rate figures issued by the Ghana Statistical Service. Well, let's still stay on food-related issues, as the Director of Policy Research at Chamber of Agribusiness, Kojo Ahiakwa, says the new directive from the Ministry of Food and Agriculture on the Planting for Food and Jobs program will guarantee market for farmers and reduce risk associated with investing in the agri sector. Instead of subsidies on inputs, the ministry will from this year implement a value chain approach where outgrowers will acquire inputs from government and distribute to their members.
Another KPI that we also see that will be a guaranteed market for produce, because there will be off-takers and aggregators who will be directly working with the farmers. And so the farmers are guaranteed market. We tend to overlook market, but to us, market is one of the major burdens of farmers, because if you produce and at the end of the day you are unable to sell, it doesn't make economic sense for you to invest in the first place. The next thing we also look at is that it's going to open up a new, it's something that is already existing. However, we also see that other stakeholders within the value chain are also going to be more comfortable in investing into the sector, because it's going to reduce the risk in the sector that makes it difficult for non-agri people to take on such risks to invest in the agribusiness sector. Because if you see government directly involved and stakeholders directly involved in the sector, everybody is directly involved. You're able to provide more specialist services like extension services, private extension services, not only leaving to the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, which will complement government actions in helping the farmers to ensure productivity.
You heard the voice of policy research at the Chamber of Agribusiness, Kojo Ahiapa there. For more news this afternoon, government is planning to increase its treasury bills target this week as it intends to use the proceeds to settle maturing bonds. In keeping with objective, the government wants to raise about 3.3 billion cedis this week. That's almost twice of the amount government targeted to borrow last week. The government has continuously resorted to borrowing on the domestic market after Ghana was priced out of the international capital market. 3 Business has learned there are even plans to swap old bonds for the treasury bills. Our sources say government may come out with a statement soon to communicate this decision. It is, however, not clear how soon. To our final story this afternoon, cybersecurity remains a concern with the adoption of technology in the country. Telco giant MTN says it is investing in infrastructure to ensure its clients are protected. There have been reports on cyber attacks, with Google, for instance, issuing an alert to Gmail and YouTube users regarding an emerging phishing attack that poses a significant threat to their online security. Speaking to the media on the sidelines of the launch of the Techno Common 20 smartphone, a senior manager for customer planning and analytics, Gudio Swami, said he is ensuring that the customer data is secured and remains a priority for his outfit.
Technology is a good master, but can really be a very bad servant. And that's why we have to be responsible with the use of technology. And at MTN, we are particular about that. And we are investing a lot in that space to ensure that there's a lot of safety, there's a lot of security, and even the young ones, parental control. What our kids are exposed to because of technology and the proliferation of internet today. We pay a lot of attention there, and we think it's an area we need to focus on. And we are doing a lot in that direction.
And that's how we wrap up the business news right here on 3FM 92.7 with me, Dela Michel. When you log on to 3news.com, there's more business news available. Black Rasta is standing by, of course, with Urban Blend. Please stay and enjoy.